Under Joe Biden's careful and thoughtful leadership, millions of people are projected to starve in Afghanistan. War has broken out in Europe. China's standing on the world stage continues to grow unchecked. And the American people are barely making ends meet. In other words, everything is just fine. Hello, I'm Mike Huckabee with The Breakdown. Now, before we get started, I've got a question for you. Do you think that President Biden is trying to mess everything up? Or do you think all the messes that he's caused are just an accident? Tell me your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel below and click the notification bell. And leave a like so that YouTube is more likely to show this video to Democrats. They'll love it. Of course they will. Well, we've got several things we want to touch upon today. Many of them have to do with what's taking place in your life. That is, if you've gone to the gas station to fill up your car. One of the things you got to realize is it's not President Biden's fault. No. Remember for those 5 years that everything Donald Trump did, it was Russia. Hey, they're still doing it according to Joe Biden. They're responsible for your high gas prices.
It's going to go up. Can't do much right now. Russia's responsible.
Yeah, Russia is responsible. In fact, the White House is so desperately trying to get this message out there that it's all Putin's fault that they've created a hashtag. It's called Putin Price Hike. Now, that's nonsense. Vladimir Putin did not cause the hike in gasoline, not all by himself. Now, granted, since he's moved into Ukraine, prices have skyrocketed even further. They're the highest they've ever been. Certainly the highest they've been since 2008 when the economy crashed. But let's not forget something. Gas prices have been going up and going up dramatically for the past 4 years, not just since Joe Biden was inaugurated, but the day after the election when people realized he was going to be the president, it started moving up. And the reason is because Joe Biden has long declared war on fossil fuels.
What I can tell you, though, Willie, is even if we drilled as much as we could, the price of oil is still set globally by the demand and supply conditions. And much of that supply is controlled by tyrants like Putin. And again, that's why we have resolved to speed our transition towards cleaner, more sustainable, and renewable sources of energy.
Here's the problem with what he said. And by the way, as you saw, that was Dileep Singh. He is a White House advisor. And he basically tries to give us an economic lesson without understanding economics. He's right to say that supply and demand is a whole bunch of this. What he failed to tell you was that when Joe Biden was elected, people started diminishing with the supply because producers were afraid that Joe Biden's war on fossil fuel was going to make it impossible for them to get it out of the ground and to the marketplace. So what do you do when you're afraid the government is going to kick you in the backside for trying to sell your product? Well, you quit putting your product on the shelf so you don't get kicked in the backside so hard. The fact is, if we're depending upon Russia and Venezuela and, God forbid, Iran for oil, there's only one reason for that. It's because we have slowed down U.S. production. I do hope you understand. The United States has more energy reserves, more drillable oil and gas than Russia does. We really do. This idea that somehow we've got to go around hat in hand begging the rest of the world, including OPEC, is nonsense. Folks, if we never tapped another single ounce, gallon, or cubic foot of energy from some tyrant, the truth is we could live for several hundred years with what we have under our own feet. Natural gas alone, we've got 100 years of that. And we don't even know where all of the oil and gas is yet. We keep discovering new fields of oil and gas. And sometimes we find out that we have more of it than some of those other nations combined. And that's why we shouldn't worry so much about Putin and worry more about Biden and have him to get his boot off the necks of American oil and gas producers and commit himself that he's not going to try to shut them down later like he did on day one of his presidency when he not only killed the Keystone XL pipeline, but he also ended permitting for drilling expeditions on federal lands. I just want to remind you of something. Under Donald Trump, we had energy independence for the first time in 75 years. We don't have it anymore. And only one thing has changed. Donald Trump isn't president, Joe Biden is. That ain't Putin's fault. And by the way, it ain't mine either, because I didn't vote for Joe Biden. This next clip, this gives us a little insight. I'm going to go to number 5.
It's simply not true that my administration or policies are holding back domestic energy production. That's simply not true.
Let me tell you what's not true. That last statement was not true. It is his administration, it is his policies that are holding back production. As I just said, the only thing that's really changed in the entire marketplace of America is his election and his declaration of war on fossil fuels. Shouldn't be a big surprise. He said it throughout the campaign that he wanted to get to the place where we didn't have any fossil fuels. That sounds great, but for all of the young people and the Green New Deal people who say, oh, we want to get rid of them. Okay, give up your iPhones, give up your MacBook, give up your cars. And the cars, not just because they run on fuel, but because all the plastic synthetics that are part of that vehicle, part of your clothing, part of the countertops and all of the appliances in your house, all of those synthetics and plastics, it comes as a derivative of oil. So if you're really serious about it, going to go green, put your clothes on a clothesline, let the sun take care of drying them. That's real solar power. But get rid of all those appliances and the smartphones and the things that you live your life by, because, quite frankly, you're being kind of a hypocrite to say that you want those things, but you do not want the fossil fuels that made them possible. Now, I want to take a look at a chart. This is a chart that shows exactly what has been happening with the overall cost of fuel. And I want you to see that this cost didn't start going up because Vladimir Putin went into Russia. As you can see on the screen, if you'll look back, you'll see that there was a cost of fuel that started going up around, what do you know, November of 2020. What was it that happened in November 2020? Joe Biden got elected. Donald Trump got the boot.
If Biden got in, you'd be paying $7, $8, $9. Didn't they say, get rid of your car?
Now look at that spot right there in the middle of your chart. That's when that happened. And see how the prices have risen? Go all the way over to the far right side of the graph, and you'll see that point at which the war in Ukraine started. And yes, they have spiked dramatically in just a short period of time.
Prices at some local gas stations, they're way above the average. Well, across the street from the Beverly Center, one of the most expensive places in L.A., drivers are paying this, nearly $7 for regular unleaded, nearly $8 for premium.
But to say that they're going up because of Putin, that just isn't true. It just isn't. And you're feeling it. And by the way, a word to some of the celebrities like Stephen Colbert, who had the audacity with his $16 million a year salary to somehow say that it's your fault and that he's more than happy to pay $1 more, $2, $5, it doesn't matter. Because he then says very arrogantly, I drive a Tesla. Well, good for you, Stephen. Bravo. But that single mom who can barely get enough gas in her car to get her kids to daycare and herself to work, she just can't go out and buy a $60,000 electric car. So isn't it being a bit insensitive and boneheaded to say something like that? I think it is. Your words, let them eat cake, or maybe let them drink oil. Maybe that's the new phrase. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the notification bell below. Leave a like and tell me in the comments this answer to this question. Do you believe gas prices where you live will keep going up, or will President Biden open up the spigots and allow gas prices to go down? And by the way, be sure to tune into the live stream this Friday. I'll do my best to answer your most uncomfortable questions. And of course, if you want more of my news analysis and commentary, I hope you've already done it, but if not, right now is a good time to sign up for my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com. It is totally free because it's advertiser support. Now that's going to do it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.